They say history is written by the victors, but in Southeast Asia, sometimes it's written by storytellers, traders, and maybe one or two confused emperors. This is the legend of Hang Li Po, the Chinese princess who may or may not have married a Malay Sultan, and somehow survived 600 years of hearsay. No pressure, Your Highness. Our tale begins in the 15th century, when China was the world's powerhouse, Malacca was the trade capital of the region, and diplomacy sometimes came with a royal bride on the side. According to the story, the Ming Emperor sent one of his daughters, Princess Li Po, to marry Sultan Mansur Shah of Malacca. It was a gift, an alliance, a royal download. She didn't come alone, of course. Like any true VIP worth her salt, she didn't arrive alone. She came with an entourage of hundreds. Court officials, cooks, servants, maybe even someone's curious uncle tagging along for a glimpse of the tropics. They all settled in Bukit Cina, Chinese Hill, a gift from the Sultan himself. If you go there today, you'll find something else. The oldest and largest Chinese cemetery outside China. So, great for tourism and ghosts. Arrival at Bukit Cina. A princess, a hill, and a lot of questions. So the princess arrives. Not by herself, obviously. This is 1400 Southeast Asia, not a solo backpacking trip. She shows up with an entire royal convoy. Ministers, advisors, cooks, translators, hairdressers, tea experts, scroll holders, and probably one guy whose only job was to fan people dramatically. And where does Sultan Mansur Shah put them? On a hill. A nice one, apparently. Bukit Cina, literally Chinese hill. It becomes their settlement, their home, their little bubble of China in the tropics. A diplomatic gift from the Sultan, which sounds romantic until you realize it also kept the newcomers slightly uphill and out of palace politics. The place takes root, marriages happen, cultures blend. The entourage isn't just a footnote in the princess's story. They're the seed of one of Malaysia's oldest Chinese Malay communities. Thousands of ancient tombstones now line Bukit Cina's slopes. Some date back hundreds of years. People jog past them, take selfies, maybe whisper hello to the ancestors just in case. But the princess? Her grave's never been found. There's no royal tomb, no monument, no stone that says, "Here lies the girl who bridged two empires." It's almost like history forgot her. Or maybe she was never really there. A political marriage, and a very strategic bride. So, why would the Sultan of Malacca want a wife from China? Well, let's be honest. It probably wasn't about love at first sight. It was about survival, status, and a little thing called imperial protection. In the 1400s, Malacca was booming. A thriving port city that welcomed merchants from India, Arabia, Java, and beyond. But it was also surrounded by rivals who wouldn't mind claiming that prosperity for themselves. So when the mighty Ming dynasty sent a friendly diplomatic wave, or maybe a heavily armed fleet captained by Admiral Zheng He, Malacca did the smart thing. It aligned itself with China, and what better way to seal the deal than by marrying a princess? According to the Malay annals, the marriage between Sultan Mansur Shah and Princess Hang Li Po was more than just symbolic. It was a message to everyone else in the region. We've got friends in Beijing. Try us. Okay, technically the Ming capital was Nanjing and later Beijing, but you get the point. Of course, the records on China's side are awkwardly silent. There's no clear mention of a princess named Hang Li Po. No wedding photos, no Ming Dynasty RSVP card. Some historians believe she wasn't even a real princess, maybe just a noblewoman, or even a local legend retrofitted with royal sparkle. But in Malacca, she became a symbol of diplomacy, multicultural fusion, and the kind of soft power that wears silk and travels with an entourage of 500. 4 and 4. Princess not found. And yet, try looking for her in Chinese records, and you'll find exactly this. There are no Chinese records confirming her journey. No royal scrolls, no portraits, no diary entries about tropical humidity or how the palace food lacked bite. Just silence. It's as if the moment she stepped off the boat in Malacca, history politely looked away. In Malaysia, she lives on through the Malay annals, oral legends, and a hill full of ghost stories. But in Chinese historical texts, not a trace, which raises the big question. Was she ever real? Or was she a political invention? a narrative device in royal diplomacy. Some scholars think she may have been a high-ranking woman, not a princess, a noble sent to represent the empire without stirring succession drama back home. Others think she might have been added to the story later, like a historical patch job. A little PR to legitimize Malacca's growing Chinese-Malay identity. And honestly, that's kind of poetic. Because maybe Hang Li Po isn't about one woman at all. Maybe she represents hundreds, the women who crossed borders, cultures, and languages without ever landing in a textbook. The ones who weren't recorded but remembered anyway. And in a way, isn't that more powerful than a statue? A well, a hill, and a whole lot of history. Just opposite Bukit Cina's whispering tombstones stands a quiet but legendary relic, Hang Li Po's well, also called Perigi Raja, or the King's Well. Built in 1459, likely by Hang Li Po's own entourage, the well wasn't just a water source, it was a statement. You've brought China to Malacca, and now China flows through the city. It never dried up, even in the worst drought, giving it almost mythical status. After the Portuguese arrived in 1511, it became a site of resistance, poisoned in an act of silent defiance that claimed hundreds of invaders. Over the centuries, the well earned a new life. Dutch fortifications were built around it. It fell into disuse under the British, until modern visitors revived it as a wishing well. Today, tossing a coin in is said to promise a return trip to Malacca, blending history, myth, and nostalgia. Peranakan and cultural fusion. Mix well before serving. Hang Li Po might be missing from the official archives, but her story, or at least what it represents, lives on in something much bigger. A blended culture, a living hybrid. We're talking about the Peranakan, or Baba Nyonya, communities. These were the descendants of early Chinese settlers who, over centuries, fused Chinese traditions with Malay language, clothing, architecture, food, and even worldview. They made laksa that would ruin all other laksas, wore kabayas with phoenix embroidery and swagger, and spoke a Creole language that sounded like a cultural jam session. Now, to be clear, the Peranakan identity likely evolved over generations, not directly from one princess and her entourage. But the symbolic seed? It's often traced back to that moment, when Hang Li Po stepped off the boat and changed the cultural equation forever. So even if her story is legend, her legacy is real. Because long before Malaysia was a nation, there were already people living in the in-between. Not one thing, not the other, just something. Beautifully both. The legend lives on whether she did or not. So, was Hang Li Po real? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe she was a princess, a noble, a metaphor, or a PR campaign that aged surprisingly well. But that's the thing about Southeast Asia, and history in general. It's not always about what's written down. It's about what's remembered, and Hang Li Po, she's remembered in cemetery stones and hilltop wells, in the names passed down through generations, and in a culture that refuses to fit into one neat box. She's not just a figure from a dusty old chronicle. She's a symbol of something that still matters: identity, migration, diplomacy, and the messy beauty of cultural fusion. So maybe there's no monument, no royal grave, no official document to seal her story. But stand at Bukit Cina, look down at the well, and ask yourself, if she's just a myth, why does she still feel so real? Maybe because we needed her to be.